So again, welcome everyone on this beautiful day to our Women's Month celebration. We've put together a very simple, short program for just this 1 hour. And we're going to start off with a prayer. We've asked Kathy if she could please start us off with a prayer. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My prayer this morning is a poem by Joyce Rupp, and it's about calling in the ancestors. It helps us in this month of celebrating women and looking at all the strengths and the challenges that women experience ongoingly in our lives. We also begin to look at our ancestors whose spirits we continue in and whom we carry within us, since we are all one in this whole dynamic of the universe. Come, ancient ones, original guardians of this place. Come with the heart you wore as you stood on this hallowed land. You who easily tended earth, holding her treasures with uncalloused care. Come, great ancestors of First Nations. Come, wise ones of American Indians. Come, first walkers of songlines in the outback. Come, Maori of the longboats. Come, shamans and healers, tribes of many languages and color. Come, teach us who have forgotten the mother who feeds us. Come, tell us the ancient truths you knew so well. Breathe whispers of wisdom in hearts whose memories have lost the beauty of simple things and the wonder of unharmed landscapes. Come, dream dreams of hope in us. Stir in us songs of the seas and rivers. Dance stories of reverence in our blood. Raise up a profound kinship in our souls. Guide us into strong circles of respect for everything inhabiting our world. Come, original guardians, breathe fire into our tame bones, till we too stand strong, fierce in our determination to dwell on our beloved planet with gratitude as deep as yours. And help us, ancient ones, to respect all of life, particularly the life that gives birth constantly and renews our souls. And we ask all of this through Mary, Queen of Heaven and Earth, as we celebrate her feast day today, and all those who have gone before us. We ask for their intercession. Amen.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful blessing to start our day. And to also think of Mother Mary during this month of women and her spiritual example to all of us. So friends, this is a gathering hosted by Religions for Peace South Africa. And our hope today was to create a space to really celebrate and learn from great women. We also want to just acknowledge that we are living in a country where the violence against women and children is at a pandemic level. It's also an epidemic, just as serious as the pandemic the world is facing. And so acknowledging that hurt, acknowledging that difficulty that we're going through, We hope that this space today will be putting out positive healing energy into our nation. So friends, with us today, I've invited some very dynamic women to share with us today. We have Yumna, who is joining us from Johannesburg. And Yumna and I used to work in youth empowerment together. And she's a very dynamic and beautiful, devoted Muslim woman in her 20-somethings. She's an aspiring change maker. And she's currently working as a senior analyst in corporate South Africa. We also have with us my dear, dear sister-in-law, Kwezi Fudu. So I obviously could say lots and lots about her because she's actually my sister-in-law. And we have a very long and special relationship over these years, but I'm just going to speak about her professionally. Kwezi Fudu Kanenda, she is living also in Johannesburg, and she is doing some really, really wonderful work to help uplift people in business, in micro businesses in South Africa. And she's the enterprise development head at Chimolongo Digital Innovation Precinct. So it's an incubation hub for tech and digital startups in Johannesburg. And she's just doing this work specializing in business development, which we know during this economic crisis, we really have to look at things in new ways. So she'll be sharing with us today. We have Ila Gandhi with us. Ila Gandhi, I think most of you know, is the granddaughter of Mahatma Gandhi. She has devoted her entire life to the work of her grandfather. She sits on the board of the Gandhi Development Trust, and she's also a co-president for Religions for Peace International. And she is a wonderful servant to humanity. I've also invited with us today, we have Phumzile. Sis Phumi is a dear, dear friend of mine. We've worked in peace building, team building together here in Durban, South Africa. But in addition to all that, she is a human talent capacity builder and facilitator, and she's also a writer and an incredible cook. We also have joining us in a little bit Ashantiwa Ngidi, who is the director of the Center for Africology, study of Africology. And so I've just invited these dynamic women to join us today to share some of their thoughts on a few guiding questions. My hope is that they will kind of inspire us with some of their experience through story. I think we learn a lot from story. And if we look at indigenous culture, we know that the way of our ancestors is learning through the passing down of stories. So I'm going to ask them to share from personal experiences and stories of their life on some of these questions. So the first question that we have today to help guide us along is this: how do we support women and girls to bring themselves up in a society that obviously has not necessarily honored them and their greatness to the level it should? So how do we help inspire our women and girls to find that power within themselves? So I'm going to ask Sis Phumi to be our first person to share on that question. If I can hand it over to you, Sis Phumi.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Yes, sorry, I realized that I was talking to myself for about a second there because I had muted myself. But just to jump straight into it, but firstly to greet each and every woman on this forum. I am so honored to be part of this amazing, amazing group. The question that Haley has asked me is one that I've been pondering for most of this year, especially because of the situation that we find ourselves in with COVID-19. And I had the opportunity, a very, very amazing opportunity, to work with a children's home. Now, we all know that children in a children's home are abandoned, or they cannot be taken care of by their families, their parents or their extended families. So they find themselves in a home with many other children who are battling different kinds of social ills and who have serious issues. So what I did do at the beginning of lockdown is I chose to, when lockdown happened, many of these homes needed assistance in terms of personnel. And I was in a very tough emotional state myself. And I realized that if I spend lockdown locked up in my own home, I was not going to be of service to anybody. And I needed, initially it was just to find something to distract me. And that led me to locking myself up for 14 days with children in a children's home. A sobering experience. But during that time, I also got to spend time with young girls who, because the home houses children from obviously preschool right up to matric. But the ones that really, really touched me and concerned me and taught me a lot are the ones, firstly, the younger ones who are just starting school, and then those that are in grade 11 and grade 12, because those are the ones that I felt needed my guidance. I also needed to learn from them. So we covered many topics. Mainly what humbled me about them was their willingness to learn, one, their willingness to be better people and not to repeat the cycle from which they come. And I found that quite encouraging. And so it started in lockdown, and it's been something that's been ongoing, because I realized that it can't be something that will take 14 days only and then it's finished. So, almost every week we meet and we have like 2 hours in the afternoon, because most of them have not been in school, especially those that are not in matric. We have at least 2 hours a week where we sit and we talk about their aspirations, and I share my life story so that they know that their current situation does not define who they are, but hopefully, it will build them to be stronger women, stronger girls who will grow up to be amazing human beings who have the capacity to change the world. So that has been quite enriching. They say it's been quite good for them. They say that they've learned a lot, but I'm amazed at how much they've taught me. We often make a mistake that because we're older and we've experienced more life than they have, that we have all the answers. But these young people showed me that I don't know anything. And I've just found it to be quite refreshing to look at the world from a young person's eyes. And I think there's nothing more inspiring than hearing from young women who have been abused in so many different horrifying ways, but they still find hope in the future. So that's what I'm continuing to work on, and that has been an inspiration to me. And I really hope to God that one day, at least one of those girls will look back and say, because I was there, she's a better person. That would be my contribution.
Thank you so much, Sis Pumi. That's really amazing. So basically, through humility and learning to listen and sharing story, you see healing happening and growth happening for everyone, and hopefully transformation. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we could just talk on this question for the whole hour. But I would.
All right. Yeah.
I would just like to ask if any of our other panelists would like to maybe add to that for 1 or 2 minutes before we move on to the next question. Either Yumna, Kwesi, Auntie Ela.
Good morning, everyone. I guess I'll weigh in because it is also, I guess, like everybody here, a topic that's passionate to everybody. Highly pleasured to be with all you wonderful ladies today. So reflecting on this question, I always think it starts with the self. It's amazing how many learnings we take from our environment, our childhood, that we just carry on with without even realizing the destruction that they potentially have. And so I think it starts with first introspection as a person and learning to undo those practices or perceptions or prejudices that one has that causes you to parent or to lead or to behave in a way that creates boxes in terms of how engendering people and creating boundaries for them. And I like to make the example of my own father, who was probably one of the most liberal people I know. But I remember one or two comments where he would say to me, "Noma Kwezi, a girl doesn't do that." And it's like, why is it a girl that doesn't do that? Why can't it be anybody that doesn't do that? And I mean, this is a guy who sacrificed his own education so that his wife could be educated, so that he knew the effect of her being educated upon the family, but also upon society. But there were so many things that, were such a natural part of his wiring that he had not worked through, even those certain things he had changed as he grew up and started learning, the alternative. So I think there's a lot around starting with the self, learning to unlearn what you know and learning new things around how to have less gendered approaches to life. And then, of course, it then talks to gendered parenting. How are we bringing our children up so that, whatever a boy can do, the girl also believes that they can do. And I see this a lot because I work in the tech space. And, the number of women who sign up for engineering degrees and then leave, it's a small number that come in. And then even when they get in there, it's difficult for them to stay because the space is so masculine and doesn't accommodate who they are. And for them to thrive, they need to change certain feminine things about themselves. So it's then also talking to what influence are we creating in the spaces that we are in to ensure that women can navigate those spaces totally feeling like themselves and not having to be hard and rigid and let go of the feminine qualities that make society work well. I could actually go on. I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kwesi. So you also spoke, like Sis Pumi, about the importance of introspection and undoing the things that are not serving us anymore and holding us back. So I think what we need to really explore is how we can basically help bring in that feminine energy and have it accepted in spaces throughout our society, so that we can really be of better service to the community, because without those feminine qualities, we are all held back. Friends, if there's Ila and Yumna, unless you'd like to share also on that, I'd like to move on to the next question, but I just wanted to leave a space. Go ahead, Mama Ila.
I just want to add 2 points to what the previous speakers, what they have said. Firstly, I found that in my work, often women who have been abused lose their dignity, their self-respect, and so on. And so it's very important to support them and to help them to regain that dignity and self-confidence. So in work with women and also children, we need to bring back that, in girls and women, give them dignity, self-respect, self-sufficiency, no dependency on somebody else. And that gives them self-confidence as well. So that's the thing. The second point I want to make is that we often, always say, don't do this, don't do that to our girls, our girl children, but we don't say anything to the boy child. We spend more time telling the girl child what she is not supposed to do, but we don't tell the boy child what he should be doing, how he should be behaving. So I think that we need to, as mothers, we need to spend more time with our boy children and teach them how to respect, how to treat girls, and the behavior, the whole behavior pattern, and understanding of themselves in relationship to a girl, to a female, or whatever, gender. So I think I just want to make those 2 points. Thanks.
Absolutely, so important. Thank you so much. And I think that leads us well into the next guiding question, which is what keeps us spiritually, emotionally, and physically healthy? So one of the things you've just said is an answer to that question, which is really to raise our boys to support the health of our sisters as well. I think that's quite related. So with us today, we have people from a variety of faith backgrounds. We have people with Hindu backgrounds, Baha'i backgrounds, Christian backgrounds, and African traditional backgrounds. So I think it would be really helpful for us to now ask each of the women from your faith, what you've learned from your faith, how have you learned to keep yourself spiritually, emotionally, and physically healthy? But mostly I wanted to focus on the spiritual aspect. Maybe we can ask Yumna to start.
Sure, and afternoon, everybody. So I think what I've learned, at least as I've grown into an adult, when I was younger, I felt it was a lot easier to have faith, and it came a lot more easier to me, and I didn't question much versus the way I feel now as an adult. And I've noticed, at least over the last couple of years, as I face challenges as an adult, belief and faith has become a lot more tricky for me, and I question it a lot more. And there's some days when it's really difficult to believe. And that's exactly how I actually stay spiritually grounded, is that even through the difficulty, even when I feel like I just don't have it in my heart and soul to keep going, I push myself because I know that there's something higher than me. And for me, that's the crux of faith, is that even when you don't believe, you have something to believe in. And there's a famous quotation, and I wish I remember who said this, but it goes along the lines, and I paraphrase it: it's better to have believed that God existed, only to find out that he didn't, than to not have believed at all, only to find out that he did. And that's something that keeps me going, that it's better for me to at least believe that there is something beyond me and a higher power, because this world can get so overwhelming. And I think if you don't, at least in a way, push yourself to keep thinking that, to every day make the conscious decision that there is something I don't understand, that maybe for the rest of my life I might never fully understand the gravity of what this something is, but there is a higher power, be it God, be it a spirit, be it ancestors, but there is something else that's guiding this world, that's controlling what's happening in this world, and it allows us to then resign and just take a breath without feeling that pressure of having to control everything and taking on the burden of the world. So yeah, I think that's it for me, believing even when I feel like I can't.
Thank you. I think we all feel that way sometimes. Thank you so much. Sis Pumi? You're on mute, Sis Pumi. Go ahead.
Yumna, I love that quote. I've actually seen it as well, and I'm trying to figure out who said it, and I'll find out, because it resonates with me, especially now. So, it's far more easier to keep ourselves healthy physically, because it's easy to get on the road and walk, which is what I try and do quite regularly, or go to the gym or whatever. But the other part, the spiritual and the emotional, I've had a particularly difficult 2019. I know that my sister Haley's away. I lost my husband rather suddenly, which is something that I still do not understand to this day. But on top of that, now, in our tradition, and I'm wrong in saying in our tradition, because it shouldn't be in anyone's tradition. When a man dies, he does not die a natural death. The wife always is behind it. which then caused a huge rift with my in-laws, people that I absolutely still love because they are my family. You know, my parents are both now passed away. So when I married into this family, they are truly, truly my family. So when that happened, one, it took me by surprise, but it was quite hurtful as well because I just have never imagined myself in that situation. So the past year and a half for me has been a lot of grappling spiritually, especially with the concept of forgiveness for somebody who has not said I'm sorry, and I don't expect them to. But I had to make a decision to say, what do I need to do so that I'm spiritually healthy? I don't wake up bitter every single day, because then that's no way to live. So I made a decision that I'm going to start working on forgiveness for them, so that there is no negative space in my heart, if you know what that means. And it's been extremely difficult, which is why I understand when Yumna says it's a challenge, it's a battle. There are days when I was younger, it was far more easier to believe. But now, every single day as well, Yumna, I ask myself, so with all these negative things being said about me, why doesn't God come down and does something? I don't know how many dreams I've had, literally, where I dream my husband is back and I'm saying to him, fix this mess, you know? So, and it just tells you how deep in my psyche this hurt is. But the one thing that I'm determined to do, one, is to have peace and love. Each time I think of them, my practice now is to say, I'm sending them love, I'm sending them peace, because I don't want a space of hate in my heart. So, as much as I try to do that, I do have moments where I catch myself thinking what I would do if I were to meet one of them in a dark place, and then I laugh about it. But what I'm trying to get at is, faith is not an easy thing. It's something that we work on every single day of our lives. I don't imagine that even the most holy of holy people that we have on this earth find it a breeze. I'm sure they've got their battles, but that's my battle, and one that I hope I'm getting better at on a daily basis. And that concept of forgiveness for me just does not apply to my in-laws. They apply to my children, that applies to my family, and each and every person that I deal with. And the last thing I want to end up with, Haley, is that the one quote that keeps coming back to mind is, as well, I'm going to paraphrase because I can't remember who said it, is that in every situation, no matter how bad, a little kindness goes a long way. And that's what I try to do in my daily life, just to practice that.
That's fantastic. That you also, what you've said has made me think of the quotation that was sung at the beginning of the session today that says, when a thought of war comes, oppose it by a stronger thought of peace. A thought of hatred must be destroyed by a more powerful thought of love. So the practice you're designing for yourself to cope with what you're going through is exactly that, is all of the negativity, you're meeting it with love. So I think that's a wonderful wisdom for us to all take away today. Thank you so much. Mama Ila, and then Crazy.
Yeah, it's beautiful what the previous speakers have spoken about. I think that's one of the reasons why daily prayers are so essential, so that you renew your energy each day. But I think for me, spirituality and belief in God give me two things. Number one is that, when I'm feeling lost, or, I don't have answers to some important things or direction, I don't know what I should be doing. Then when I sit down quietly and meditate and think about God, I find that I have that inspiration coming into me. So that's the one, importance of that meditation, of quiet, prayer and thinking about God, because it gives you that answer. The second point, I think, is, about what Avanti has said in her chat box, that you don't feel lonely when you are praying because you're bringing the Spirit. So you are here now with someone else and you're no longer lonely. So it gives you that hope, that, togetherness, the spirituality, and it gives you more confidence when you pray and when you believe. So it gives you that confidence, it gives you strength, it gives you the power to be able to do the things that you have been inspired to do. So there's the inspiration and there's the strength. And those are the two things that I get from my spirituality, my prayers. And I find that, I have to renew it daily. Because by the end of the day, sometimes I feel weak, I feel helpless, sometimes I feel hopeless, that there is no answer. But then I, say my prayer and I'm feeling more confident after that. So, yeah, that's been my experience. I think it's important to have that because I've seen some people who don't believe and they find it very difficult to face up to life's challenges. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So that daily prayer and meditation practice, I think, is something we can definitely take away as something for us all to try and incorporate into our lives to help us cope with all that life is handing us. I just wanted to also read what Avanti had written. I feel having all relationships with the One helps our self-esteem, self-respect, and keeps an emotionally and mentally sustained. To know that God is our Father, Mother, Companion, and Guide keeps me in perspective of who I am, a spirit, a soul, positive being of energy. Thank you for that, Avanti. Over to you, Kwesi.
I think everything that's been said, I totally agree to it. But I think just to add, sometimes we obsess about being in control. And I think in my life, I've learned how we're not in control and we need to learn to surrender. I think of mental illness and, a lot of things that we go through as people, the depressions and everything. And I think a lot of it stems from our inability to surrender and accept that we're not in control. And I think when we know that there is, a higher power that can handle it for us when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And the test, right, comes because we say we believe these things. And the test comes when we are in situations where we now have to, where the way we behave and react to the situation proves whether or not we really believe. And I think that's really the struggle. I think for a lot of us is that sometimes we own these beliefs, but the practice thereof, it's not at a stage where it's unconscious because the belief is just that strong. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think there's something about service. So, prayer is great because it renews you. But being of service to one's community and giving of yourself to others, and not with an expectation of results, because results are not up to us. What's up to us is what we put out. I think there's something about that as well, for me, certainly, that gives me a great sense of joy. And that's why even with my job, like the transitions I've been in terms of the work that I do, the main thing is, how am I making somebody else's life better every day when I wake up? And it feels like it's such a different feeling to I'm going to work, you know, because every day becomes a question of this is more than about me. This is me being of service and making sure that the world is a better place and doing my little bit for it. And that for me is a great source of joy, of inspiration, but also of grounding me, make me realizing that all I am on this earth is a servant, you know, and when you're a servant, you like the dust on the ground, you know, you're humble, you try to be humble. I mean, these things don't come easy because we all have egos, we all have a whole lot of negative things that we carry with us. But at least it's the aspiration that in our humility, in the service that we're doing in communities, our values have to be aligned to what a servant would be like. Thank you. I always want to say over.
Over. Thank you, Crazy. Yeah, what you've just said also, I think, goes back to the story that Sispumi shared with us about spending those 2 weeks locked in with the children at the children's home, and how that was medicine for both the children and for her by being of that service. So I think there's a lot of power in service, you're right. And of course, prayer and letting go. And like Yumna reminds us, let go and let God. And hearing what all of you have said so far, it's so beautiful to me. And it's also just a confirmation of my belief that across all faiths, we have the same challenges, and we draw from the same strength to get through those challenges. So that for me is very powerful to hear these women of such diverse, spiritual backgrounds having that same experience. So we've talked a little bit about our spiritual challenges and how we can have strength through surrender, strength through meditation, through prayer, through letting go, and through service. So I'd like us now for the final question of the day, is I would like us to think about how you each have brought yourself into power, prosperity, confidence, and have reached your goals. So I'd like to just ask you each just to share a little bit about your personal life experiences of coming into your power and prosperity and confidence. So if I can go back to Sispumi.
Unmute. Can you hear me now? I always forget to unmute myself. I've thought long and hard about that question. And for me, it goes back to how I was brought up. I was very lucky to grow up in a stable home with parents that absolutely loved and adored each other. And they showed that to us, I have memories of waking up probably I was 10, 11 years old, waking up to Nina Simone playing in the background and my parents slow dancing one Saturday morning, Now, my mother was a lady. And when I say lady, I mean, she was softly spoken. She had respect for everybody. She was, I don't know, a single person who did not hold her in high regard. But when she was 57, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's, which is a very debilitating disease. And now I'm talking about someone who never sat down. She was always in the kitchen. She was always cleaning the house. She was, she had a career as a nurse. So she was very busy. And all of a sudden, her body gives up on her. And, her mental faculties remained clear right up to the last day. But her body was giving up on her. We got to a stage where if the helper who was taking care of her was off, I had to take care of her. And taking care of her meant giving her a bath, which was traumatizing for me at first, because I knew this powerful woman when she could do things herself. Also meant I had to feed her. It also, she just needed help to do every single thing that we take for granted. So she's in that state. My father at that time was in a very senior position in the country, and he was getting ready to retire, but he was very busy. And there were nights when I would walk in, because mom couldn't speak, but so I would need to walk in several times in the night just to make sure that she needed, whether she needed to go to the loo or to be turned or anything. But I woke up at 3 a.m. I fell asleep. I must have been very tired that day, and woke up in a panic and rushed to their room to find my mom crying in pain and her husband holding her and singing to her in that state. So that showed me what love makes possible, And fast forward many years down the line, I was also fortunate enough to meet a husband who was very much like, I literally think I married my father. They were even born on the same date. Obviously not the same year, but their birth date, the month and the date was the same. And he had the same big heart. He had the same big love. So for me, what it told me is we think, sometimes we think we've got things figured out, and then something amazing reminds you. I think much like Kwezi was saying, that we are not in control. We have no idea what's going to happen next. And for me, what I found empowering is just that realization that, yes, there is a higher power up there. It's got many names, but there is that power, and all we need to do is trust in that power. Now, I battle with that. Sometimes I pray for something, or pray because there's a situation that needs to be resolved. The minute I finish praying, what do? I start stressing if it's going to get resolved, And that's something that I've come to, I think I'm getting better at it, but it's one of my power mantras kind of thing to say, like someone wrote earlier, I think it was Avanti, let go and let God. And I think for me, that has been working. And it's something that I obviously need to get better of it. And one of the things I'm going to take from this amazing gathering is actually because, I wake up early. So, you wake up, it's been cold lately, then I stay in bed. But that's the perfect time to meditate. So one of the things I'm taking away from this amazing meeting is actually to implement that. Wake up every day before you do your work. 15 minutes of meditating can change how the tone of your day looks like. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Pumi. You've reminded me of these different stages of prayer. And it was described by the great-grandson of Baha'u'llah that we should think on what we need help with. We then pray for that. And then we sit quietly and meditate after to give time for the answers to begin to flow. And then the other step after that is to act as if the prayer has already been answered. And I think we pray and we have these difficulties, but I think we also need to remember that we will have that addressed when we ask God for assistance. It may not be addressed in a way that we were expecting in any way or form, but it will be addressed. And Pumi will laugh at me now, but I had just called on her for some positive vibes in prayer before I had to take a driver's test. And she's like, oh, you've got this. So she gave me that confidence, but I prayed and I prayed and I prayed to pass the test. But when I went to take this test, God's prayer was, my prayer was answered by God in a way that I wasn't expecting. It was in the form of this really calm, beautiful, kind instructor. She was the answer to the prayer. My prayer was thinking, I'm going to get the numbers. But that wasn't what God wanted me to learn from this story. So I think that we always have to be creative in the way we pray, but also know that God is creative in how he answers us. I just wanted to ask Ila, Kwezi, Yumna, any of you are welcome to just unmute yourself and share.
Yeah, so Haiti, I'll just a couple of talk points on this. Exactly what Sis Pumi said. I think I've felt that throughout my life. Um, just that belief in a higher power has brought me through challenges. Um, and now as an adult, there's times I look back in my life as a young girl and the immense challenges I had faced growing up. And sometimes I don't know how I even got through it. And I think that for me is so powerful, is that I look back at how far I've come, um, especially having grown up with a single mom, and I look at how far she's come in life. And it just blows my mind that we could be sitting here today with everything that we have. And it's a constant reminder of this higher power that we've been talking about, and this higher power that takes care of you, even when you don't know that it's taking care of you. There were so many times in life where things are out of your control. I think it's most of life. And when things seem so overwhelmingly difficult, but somehow you get through it. And I think it's only in retrospect that you realize how you got through it, that it was this guiding force, this spiritual power that was taking care of you, and it had you in the palm of your hand. And there's times now, and I'll tell my husband, I genuinely believe I've had an angel that's with me throughout my life. I'm not sure if it's an angel or what is it, but there's been so many challenges I faced in my life, and I'm not sure how I went through it and how I got past it. And I think that's also very important, is to retrospect and to look at how far you've come, and that always gives me the motivation to go forward, because it also instills the attitude of gratitude, which I know is quite a popular phrase, but it really does. When you look at how far you've come in life and what you've overcome as a woman, as a girl, to be where you are today, and that gives me the motivation to keep going.
Thank you. Crazy, I see you're off mute. Go ahead.
I think my addition to this conversation is that it's everyday effort. It's that renewal every day, like, in terms of the prayer, in terms of taking time to reflect on your day, your behavior, your reactions to how things were. That everyday effort is so important. And then secondly, it's balance. I know personally, like, I struggle with work-life balance. And I think I didn't realize, for example, how COVID just totally, took my balance out of kilter. And it took me a while to realize why, even though I put so much time, for example, into my work, and I'm doing very well in my work, but I still don't feel a sense of accomplishment. And I realized I miss going out to communities, and that regularity of engaging with communities and doing stuff in communities, and hadn't taken the time to migrate, for example, to online, to be able to interact with the people in the communities that I can't come into physical contact with. And so that part of my life, where even though I feel like in my work I'm giving of myself and my time, but there's this other part that's really important. It's become a normal part of my life that I haven't been taking care of. And so I think balance is such an important thing, just that self-awareness of knowing what is it that fulfills me, what is it that nurtures my soul, and then making sure that in every single bit of my day, I try to make sure that it happens. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be on this earth, and I think what we have left is really how we've been able to contribute towards the betterment of society. And so I think, just that consciousness around how we spend our time is so important, rather than just plodding along and thinking that things are going to work out.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we just have to bring it to our conscious mind how we're going to make those daily efforts. Thank you. I thought I could ask Mama Ila just to give us some final thoughts, and then my daughter has offered to sing a closing prayer for us, and then we'll leave a little bit of time for questions for those who'd like to stay behind. Mama Ila?
Yeah, I'd just like to, at one point, I agree with all the things that have been said. And I think that power of service, as Kwesi has put, is very, very important. But what I've been brought up to learn is that everything, every atom in the world is God's creation. And because it's God's creation, God is there. And so when we destroy anything in the world, we are destroying God. When we are promoting or conserving or looking after all the creation, and that goes, to atmosphere, to nature, animals, people, when we are looking after them, when we are helping them, when we are doing that kind of service in the name of God, because we believe that God exists in all these things, then there's a different kind of energy, spirituality, and power that you experience, because it's not power of conquering something, but it's a power of saying that I am doing something to look after God, God's creation. This is what I was created for. These are all God's creation, and we all looking after each other. There's an interdependence, and there is a responsibility, because every right has a responsibility. Nature has a right, animals have a right, people have a right, and we also have responsibilities. So we have to carry out those responsibilities. So for me, power, prosperity, and confidence is about being able to do all these things with humility, with humbleness, and, as part of our duty, not as part of something that somebody is forcing us to do. Because whenever we do anything, work, whatever it is, because somebody has forced us to do it, we're not putting our heart into it. But when we're doing it because we believe that this is our responsibility, this is our duty, our spiritual duty, then we do it and we put in our best into it. So that's what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So by embracing our responsibility, embracing our oneness with the earth and all that lives on this planet with us, we really learn to empower ourselves, but also support all systems of life. Thank you so much, Mama Ila. So friends, I've put in the chat to please put your email if you would like to be invited to future meaningful conversations. We try and do one each month. We also have interfaith prayers the first Thursday of every month. You're all welcome and invited. You can use the same link. So on that note, I think, friends, we will now have a closing prayer. And thank you again for your time and for being with us today. It's just so beautiful to see all of you. Tandy, over to you.
Rely upon God, trust in Him, praise Him and call Him continually to mind. He verily turneth trouble into ease, sorrow into solace, and toil into utter peace. He verily hath dominion